Order. Welcome to meeting number 25 of the Standing Committee on Science and Research. The committee is meeting today to study of artificial intelligence. Before we start, the committee would need to adopt a new budget for our study on artificial intelligence since we had 2 more meetings than estimated in our previous budget, and a budget also for our next study on governance and accountability of federal science policy and institutions. The clerk has sent you both draft budgets by email. So first is for the, because of the addition of the 2 meetings, the budget on artificial intelligence study, and the second one is on the study of governance and accountability of federal science policy and institutions. So is it the will of the committee to adopt these budgets? Everyone okay? Okay. Anyone against? No? So we thank you. Those 2 budgets are adopted. And before I get to our witnesses, I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of our witnesses as well as the members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. For those on Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you can select the appropriate channel for interpretation, either floor, English, or French. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. And with that, I would like to welcome our witnesses for our first panel. We are joined today in person by Mehmet Murad Crystal, professor at Schulich School of Business, York University. Welcome. We are also joined by Dr. Taylor Owen, Beaverbrook Chair in Media, Ethics and Communications and founding director of the Center for Media Technology and Democracy. He is joined by video conference. From the Ontario Tech University, we are joined by Dr. Stephen Murphy, President and Vice Chancellor by video conference. I think we are expecting Dr. Peter Lewis, the Canada Research Chair in Trustworthy Artificial Intelligence. He will join soon. All the witnesses will have 5 minutes for their opening remarks, and then we will go into a round of questioning by the members. And we will start with Dr. Crystal. Please go ahead. You will have 5 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you. Chair, Vice Chairs, and members of the committee, thank you for the invitation to appear today. My remarks focus on one central message. Canada is not falling behind in artificial intelligence, research, or talent, but we are at risk of falling behind in AI execution and productivity impact. Canada remains a global leader in foundational AI research, ethics, and graduate-level talent. We produce world-class ideas, models, and researchers. The gap is not invention, but the gap is in translation, turning research excellence into large-scale deployment, productivity gains, and sustained economic impact. Over the next decade, countries that lead in AI will not be those that publish the most papers. They will be those that embed AI most effectively into the real economy, influencing finance, energy, health, logistics, public services, and critical infrastructure. The single biggest obstacle to AI adoption in Canada is not technology, it is institutional capability. Canada produces excellent engineers and data scientists. What we lack at scale are AI-literate executives, AI-capable boards, AI-trained regulators, and senior public servants. Without this leadership layer, AI remains siloed, risk-averse, and underscaled even when funding and technical talent are available. On employment, the core risk is not mass unemployment, but uneven transition. AI primarily displaces tasks rather than entire occupations. The real risks are job polarization, widening productivity gaps across firms and sectors, skill obsolescence, particularly among mid-career workers. The policy response should not be slow AI adoption. It should be to align AI deployment with workforce transition, reskilling, and executive training so productivity gains are broadly shared. With respect to regulation, Canada should focus on regulating AI systems and outcomes, not just models. Effective governance emphasizes explainability, bias monitoring, auditability, data governance, and cyber resilience. This approach allows innovation to continue while ensuring accountability where real-world risk occurs. This leads to Canada's strategic opportunity. Canada does not need to outscale United States or China in AI platforms. Our opportunity is to outperform in trusted, regulated, large-scale AI deployment. Canada can lead globally in regulated and trustworthy AI, privacy-preserving AI, AI deployment in finance, infrastructure, and public systems. In these domains, institutional trust is not a constraint, it is a competitive advantage. From a federal policy perspective, three priorities matter the most. First, executive and public sector capability building, including AI literacy at the board, deputy minister, and regulator level. Second, shared national data and AI infrastructure to move beyond fragmented pilots towards scalable platforms. Third, clear, deployable standards for trustworthy AI so organizations can operationalize, certify, and scale AI responsibly. In closing, the biggest policy mistake Canada could make is treating AI as only an innovation issue rather than a national infrastructure issue. AI now underpins economic security, payment systems, energy grids, public services, and cyber resilience. Governing it accordingly through capability, coordination, and accountability will shape Canada's productivity and competitiveness over the next decade. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. And we will now proceed to Dr. Owen. You will have 5 minutes for your opening remarks. Please go ahead. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee for this invitation to appear today. I was recently asked to contribute to the Federal AI Strategy Task Force on the theme of trust and safety, and my remarks today draw on that submission, which is publicly available. I understand that the study is focused on AI research, on recent advances, on the needs of research institutions, and on the role of the federal government in promoting a responsible AI research ecosystem. I want to address that final point directly, because I personally think it's foundational to all the others. The government has made it clear it wants Canadians to adopt AI. This is understandable. I increasingly believe that this technology is transformational and has the genuine potential to improve productivity, reshape public services, and strengthen our economic competitiveness. To do this, Canada should certainly invest in AI research infrastructure, fund centers of excellence, and recruit world-class talent. But investment alone is not a strategy for adoption. Creating the conditions under which those systems can be safely integrated into public life is equally as essential. If the systems that emerge from the Canadian AI research and development are deployed without clear standards for safety, transparency, and accountability, and if the public does not trust them as a result, then the entire enterprise is undermined. A responsible AI research ecosystem then requires a responsible AI governance ecosystem. The two can't be separated. And right now, that public confidence is simply not there. Only 34% of Canadians are willing to trust AI systems. Nearly 80% are concerned about negative outcomes on their lives. 78% fear it will undermine our elections. 70% are worried about their children's safety. And close to 80% believe AI threatens their jobs. But 88% want stronger governance. This is not then a literacy gap. Canadians are making reasonable judgments. These systems were deployed without meaningful oversight, and they have seen and felt the consequences. So this is a governance gap. And without closing it, neither the adoption the government seeks nor public confidence in AI research will materialize. My submission to the task force argues that closing this governance gap requires action on three fronts. I think of these as the democratic foundations of AI governance, really the bare minimum we need to do. The first is citizen safety. AI systems are being deployed at an unprecedented pace, often without meaningful risk assessments. We have seen chatbots fail users in mental health crises and children exposed to harmful content through many AI-powered products. Democratic governance requires independent regulatory authority with the power to mandate risk assessments before deployment and ensure heightened protections for children. The second is information integrity. AI now both curates and creates our information environment. Synthetic media is proliferating, provenance is obscured, and citizens cannot distinguish meaningfully between authentic material and fabrication. Democratic governance requires mandatory AI labeling and provenance disclosure, at least for now, and data access frameworks that allow research to study these systems. The third is democratic legitimacy. Citizens must have meaningful agency over AI systems that affect their lives. Recourse mechanisms when AI causes harm, data portability so users are not locked into products, and structured public consultations so governance is shaped by the people it affects. These principles can be translated into concrete policy, and I would suggest they can easily. Canada does not need sweeping new AI legislation. Most of these measures can be implemented through two existing frameworks: an amended Online Harms Act that brings AI chatbots into scope, and an amended Consumer Privacy Protection Act with AI-specific transparency requirements. Both bills had cross-partisan support. Both could be revived quickly. I would also add that addressing this governance gap is itself a research challenge. Too often, AI funding is understood narrowly as investment in computer science and technical infrastructure. But understanding AI's effect on society and developing policy tools to address that requires sustained investment in social science, humanities, and interdisciplinary research. Canada has strengths in this area, but it remains significantly underfunded. If this committee is considering the needs of Canada's AI research ecosystem, I would urge it to think broadly of what that ecosystem must include. Governance is not a constraint on a responsible AI research ecosystem. It is a precondition for it. Thank you, and I look forward to questions.
Dr. Owen, and now we will go to Ontario Tech University. And from Ontario Tech University, we are joined by Dr. Stephen Murphy, President and Vice Chancellor, and also we have been joined by Dr. Peter Lewis, Canada Research Chair in Trustworthy Artificial Intelligence. Dr. Murphy, floor is yours. You can go ahead. You will have 5 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's good to be back with you today, and I will be splitting my 5 minutes with Dr. Lewis. AI should always be thought of from a policy perspective, as we've heard of this morning, as a balancing act between innovation and governance and issues of privacy, data management, and reducing algorithmic bias. The opportunity for Canada, I believe, lies in developing trustworthy, human-centered AI applications in areas that contribute the most to Canadian GDP. We've tended to date to centralize funding around clusters that build out large language models. I don't see this as a realistic niche that Canada can own given the US hyperscalers. I do see the rich potential in applications that engender trust and build the social license for AI with the public. As we diversify our exports, we need to seize the opportunity to develop applications that balance innovation with responsibility in areas Canada is known for, including, for example, energy, mining, advanced manufacturing, to name an obvious three. In so doing, we can enhance productivity and GDP while building applications that engender trust. This approach also ensures we don't spread ourselves too thin or forget which industries drive our economy and our exports. It's not just the right thing to do, it's good business, and it fits the Canadian brand internationally. Just think of the global reputation of our banks as they came through the 2008 financial crisis. It's my privilege to now turn the floor over to our Canada Research Chair in Trustworthy AI, Dr. Peter Lewis, through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy, Chair. As Dr. Murphy said, I'm with Canada Research Chair in Trustworthy AI at Ontario Tech University and Director of our recently launched Mindful AI Research Institute, MARY. We champion, through MARY, a vision for a thoughtful, intentional, and inclusive approach to AI research and innovation, bringing together more than 70 professors with expertise spanning the social and the technical, providing us with the ability to tackle pressing challenges around AI in a deeply interdisciplinary way. I'd like to express our thanks to the Canada Research Chair Programme, the Tri-Agency Research Programmes, New Frontiers in Research Fund, and other federal research programs that have enabled us, for example, to do the research to inform the recently released new federal standard for accessible and inclusive AI, the first of its kind in the world, and which ensures that the 8 million Canadians living with disabilities have barriers to using AI removed or reduced. These programs are enabling us to do the research needing to understand the trustworthiness of AI systems being promoted and considered for use in courtrooms to analyze forensic evidence, ensuring that any use of AI enhances objectivity and justice and doesn't just undermine or threaten them. And they're enabling us to develop a new generation of reflective AI systems with enhanced social intelligence and safety based on new architectures. I'd like to make 3 main points. The first is that in Canada, I believe we should diversify our efforts. Today, AI is deeply socio-technical, and research and innovation must reflect this. We need to hear from all sectors of Canadian society, ensure we include diverse perspectives and lived experience, and bring multiple disciplines to bear on developing our understanding of the trustworthiness of AI, its impact, and how we develop it well. The days of AI research being mostly about machine learning are over. Canada's national strategy of focusing on 3 large machine learning intensive institutes anchored in major urban centres worked well when the challenge was to get machine learning out of the lab and into businesses and people's lives. Now, as we move to the next phase, the challenge is different, perhaps a more complex one that requires a new, more diversified approach. My second point is about regulation and values. How should Canada lead globally in AI? What should AI leadership look like? And what is the distinguishing feature about a Canadian approach to AI? I would argue that AI leadership is about values. It's about showing how to do it in the right way, a way that respects dignity and inclusivity, a way that promotes equity and sustainability and truth. It's not about speed. It is right to acknowledge the pressure to act quickly and to be agile and forward-thinking. And we should acknowledge that the world looks to Canada to show how to do this with a values-first approach. Regulation is needed and it's important, but it's also not enough. Finally, I would like us to consider what the post-LLM world looks like. There is a question being asked as to whether we should be investing in competing to build the biggest and best LLMs. The LLM boom may be completing its arc, but through history, we see that AI development continues with a new architecture, building on what's gone before and opening up new paths and breakthroughs. So, how do we position ourselves well for the future? I would argue that just as Canada did in the early stages of deep learning, without necessarily knowing that it would come to all this, we should be investing in the seeds of what's to come next and placing some bets. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis and Dr. Murphy. And now we will proceed to our round of questioning. Our first round of questioning will be of 6 minutes each, and we will start with MP Baldinelli. Please go ahead. You have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being with us this morning. I'm going to begin with Dr. Owen. Dr. Owen, on October 9th, 2025, the Financial Post published an article titled Flawed and Broken. Critics warn Ottawa's AI task force is too industry-focused, with critics saying the government's approach lacks inclusivity and transparency. It's hard to imagine that 28 task force members are enough to cover everything and every aspect and angle there is to know about AI during what was considered a national sprint over 30 days to prepare recommendations to a government. So now that you've gone through the process, and I've read your report that you submitted, do you believe that other export areas were adequately represented or missing from the task force?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think there are a wide range of ways to do these kind of consultative policy processes, and frankly, this probably wouldn't be the way I would have designed one had I been in charge, but I wasn't. I think there are 2 things that need to be considered in these processes. One, what is the breadth of expertise and voices that are included? And on this one, I think it's very clear, as that letter and many have pointed out, including many on the panel, frankly, that this certainly had a directional focus to it. There were not a large number of governance, for example, experts on it, or privacy experts, or even civil society members representing those who are advocating for governance and privacy measures.
Infrastructure with regards to the power that would be required. And
agreed.
the nuclear association, the Canadian Nuclear Association, OPG, or others to
Yeah,
over my
perhaps. Sure.
your notes. You talked about responsible A
Mm,
system, and you talked
mm,
on 3 fronts: citizen safety.
mm, mm.
Your submission
Yes.
must instead be built in the democratic infrastructure that governs AI. But when you look at, again, shared with regard being industry heavy in a sense. For example, there was a gentleman, Patrick Paquette from Innovia Capital Partner, who made a submission. He said Ottawa should declare COHERE, in which Innovia is a major investor, Canada's national LLM champion, and fuel it with large revenue contracts. The deals worth over $1 billion each for defense. Right there, do you not believe, as a task force report and recommendation, that that's a conflict of interest? Are we not seeking input to develop a strategy as opposed to trying to recommend one's own company receive contracts from the federal government?
Look, I can't speak for other members or for the intent of this task force. What I can say is that that comment in my submission was referring to ongoing consultative deliberative mechanisms. I think as we head into a world where our lives and our democracy is fundamentally upended by a technology, which I believe is about to happen, it is incumbent on governments to meaningfully deliberate on how those technologies will be used and integrated in our society with those who will be affected, not just those building it. And I don't think to date the government has taken that seriously. So I hope that part of a national AI strategy, which we may see soon, includes meaningful and required deliberative consultation as we move through this technological adoption as a country together.
Again, in your comments, you said AI investment alone is not a solution to adoption. And in your report, you say AI systems are increasingly shaping what we see, the work we do, the decisions we make, and the services we access. Regulatory standpoint to kind of catch up and provide that democratic or that governance gap that needs to be filled? Can we still do it in time, or is it too late?
I mean, it's a good question, but I think this is an ongoing process. I don't think democratic consultation is a single moment. It needs to be embedded in our democratic process, which currently it is not sufficiently, in my view. So, look, do I wish we had started this 5 years ago? Of course. But it's not too late. And these legislative measures, the ones that I spelled out specifically in my contribution, I think could be done quickly and efficiently and would have a meaningful impact. So I think yes to meaningful consultation beginning as soon as possible. And look, I actually think the task force was a form of meaningful consultation. It just wasn't a sufficient one. There's all sorts of ways we need to do this. And at the same time, we need to put in place the baseline legislative measures that will allow us to minimize what I think are the clear current risks and harms of these technologies. So doing those two things together, to me, is a bare minimum for a national AI strategy that takes the democratic implications of these technologies seriously.
We will now proceed to MP McKelvey. Please go ahead. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first question is for Dr. Lewis. Dr. Lewis, I know your research is very much around trustworthiness in AI and responsible use. And I was just wondering if you could share with us what you think the federal government's top priority should be in shaping a responsible AI research ecosystem here in Canada.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I think I'd make two main points. I think one, I would actually reiterate the point we were making earlier, and Dr. Owen was saying around the importance of a broad-based consultation and meaningful deliberative engagement as part of the democratic process with groups who are affected in different ways by AI systems in their midst. Some of them have a lot of control over those and have decisions over how they can be used to, for example, enhance their businesses. Other people are much more in a position of being subject to the decisions of AI systems, and their areas such as explainability, transparency, auditability, and regulation become increasingly important. So I think that one priority ought to be to really meaningfully understand these impacts. I think I want to be fairly clear that we really do not have a good handle in general in terms of research on the impact that AI is having at the moment. There is a lot of ad hoc evidence that is emerging, but in terms of global, general patterns, this is something that's still very much emerging, and we ought to acknowledge that in the way that we do this. I'd like to make a second point, if I will, which is around the framing of how we think about trust in AI systems. And I think we can, if we're not careful, we can very easily slip into a position of trying to get people to trust AI so that adoption is something that is achieved. And I think this is thinking about it the wrong way around. Trust comes where trust is earned and trust is warranted. At least it should do when we're doing things with the right intentions. So I think that any strategy that is attempting to build and calibrate trust in the general population around AI really ought to acknowledge that people trust systems for different reasons. There's a lot of historical and systemic issues that play into those kinds of questions. There's power dynamics at play. And this is not a simple question of how do we, quote, drive adoption when we're thinking about trust. I'm happy to talk more about that if that's interesting, but I think there's some real nuance needed in that area.
Thank you. My next question is for Dr. Murphy. Budget 2025 announced $1.7 billion to recruit top international researchers. I'm just wondering what sorts of barriers or challenges do you see for recruiting AI researchers in Canada? And is there anything you think more that we need to do around the recruitment front?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I would first commend the government for those efforts. I think that they have been very well received in our sector, and they offer an immense possibility, especially in this day and age where we see many Canadians or want-to-be Canadians wanting to repatriate from the United States. So I would say that in these areas, I think that as long as we take in the depth and breadth of AI research when we think about bringing in chairs, so that we are talking about systems that are as based around governance needs, around trustworthy needs, around the social sciences and engineering, that we have the full gambit of people contributing to AI solutions, that this becomes critical, and that we don't myopically only hire systems engineers as great as they are. So by no means has that been any restriction, and I would hope that going forward we continue to place a value right across the academy in terms of people who can contribute to a technology that really has the potential to be the fourth industrial revolution that is already amongst us.
Thank you. And Dr. Lewis, I had the opportunity to meet with some of your students who are doing really great projects. I'm wondering if you could maybe speak to where they're going afterwards, and how can we retain their IP and their brilliance, here in Canada. What are we doing to retain that knowledge around artificial intelligence?
Yeah, thank you again for the question, and I'm glad that you were able to come and visit us in the lab and meet the students that we have. I think you're right that there is such a wealth of expertise and real energy amongst the students and the researchers that are being trained under programs such as the ones through NSERC and other funding agencies, including in labs like mine. In terms of how do we retain, and perhaps I can broaden it to how do we attract, I think I really welcome some of the very recent changes around trying to ensure that HQP from overseas are able to come to Canada to be able to engage in graduate study and postdoctoral research. I think this is essential, and anything that can be done to streamline and smooth those kinds of processes in terms of things like timelines is very, very welcome and enables us to act in a much more agile way. And I think that is crucial. In terms of attracting, in terms of keeping people afterwards and where do they go next, I think we've seen that things like the visas that allow graduates to be able to stay in Canada and stay perhaps even in the province that they've moved to are incredibly attractive and incredibly valuable in terms of enabling them to then stay and move into either further research jobs or into industry. And so we see examples of students who are very keen to move into those kinds of engineering jobs or indeed some of the more business-facing jobs around AI adoption and trustworthiness. And even more so nowadays, we're seeing people wanting to move into jobs as AI ethics officers and in terms of taking on regulatory roles and being part
Sorry
of that
for interrupting,
ecosystem.
Dr. Lewis. Time is up for MP McAlvey, so if you can please quickly. Thank you. We will now proceed to MP Blanchet-Jonca for 6 minutes. Please go ahead. Floor is yours.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je salue les témoins.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the witnesses who are here today. It's a very important study. It'll be a pleasure to come back to the central focus of our study, which is artificial intelligence. My first question is for Peter Lewis. With an AI system, if it's deployed in Canada and cause serious harm tomorrow morning, today, who would have the immediate legal power to halt it, in your opinion?
That's a very interesting question. I would defer to the lawyers. I'm not a lawyer, and I would not be able to comment on legal accountability or responsibility for things like this. I think if you're talking about legal versus kind of practical ability to be able to stop it.
Est-ce qu'il y a un mécanisme présentement dans le cadre?
To your knowledge, is there now any mechanism in the legal framework to block a dangerous attack if it was generated by AI?
I am not a lawyer, and I would not like to comment on that.
Un témoin qui est avec nous aujourd'hui qui...
Are there any of the witnesses today that would like to help us answer that question?
En voyant pas, Madame la Présidente, je vais poursuivre. Pour
Since I see none, Chair, I'll move on to my next question. So, for Dr. Owen, compared to the European Union or countries such as the USA, according to you, does Canada suffer from an institutional deficit in independent supervision of AI? Do we have right now a true independent authority that makes it possible to observe and regulate any issues that come up, or do we just have advisory or consulting mechanisms?
Merci pour votre question.
Thank you for your question.
We do not. And I think there's various pathways to build one and to legislate and empower one. One was in the previous Consumer Protection Privacy Act, ADA, which built an AI-specific, an AI-focused and systemic risk assessment and risk-based regulator, which is very similar to what the EU AI Act did, which creates one regulatory body to regulate a broad variety of AI capacities and products. I'm not sure that's where we're headed or where many other countries are headed. Certainly not where the US is going. Instead, what I think we're likely to see is different regulatory capacities and safety capacities, to your previous question, sitting in different types of regulatory bodies that are in some way more targeted at the types of AI they oversee and the sectors in which those exist. So in my view, on the consumer safety side, so the ways citizens are using AI products in their daily lives, most of that is best done through an online harms regulatory structure. I think we already have that model that has been widely consulted and I think provides the right risk assessment and transparency obligations on social media platforms and could be applied to consumer-facing AI products. That is very different than, I think, the spirit of your initial question, which I also am not a lawyer, so also don't know what the legal emergency mechanisms that may or may not exist are. There may be some there that I'm not aware of. But those are a very different set of risks than what would be done through a consumer-facing risk and transparency mechanism like the Online Harms Act. And I think they need to be treated as such, as fundamentally different. Just like systemic risks to our healthcare system, for example, or to our financial system, which both have existing regulatory authorities.
Mes questions pour vous. Si la capacité de calcul des modèles fondamentaux.
Thank you, Dr. Owen. I'll continue with you. If the critical infrastructures are focused between the hands of a few businesses or even foreign private businesses, can we still talk about strategic autonomy for Canada?
It depends what we mean by strategic autonomy, and it depends what we mean by digital sovereignty, which is an analogous frame that's getting used a lot now. I think if we think about, for example, the information ecosystem, where most of my work is, the fact that our information ecosystem is largely reliant on both a small number of US platforms and now a small number of US large language models certainly creates difficulties if they were to be leveraged and used against us. So should we be developing more autonomy in both of those respects? Yes. We should be building Canadian systems, and I think there are many others who can speak better than me about the infrastructure needed to do that. But we also need the ability to govern the ones we use. And right now we have neither. We neither have our own systems, nor do we have the levers through which we can govern the foreign products that we use. And I think that twin deficiency is a real vulnerability, as you point out.
Merci.
Thank you. I just get to come back to what you mentioned. To your knowledge, right now there is no mechanism to govern artificial intelligence or highly super intelligent. In other words, there's specialized AI and then super intelligent AI, if we distinguish between the two.
I mean, there's certainly not an existing mechanism that makes that differentiation. Whether there are legal mechanisms to address some of sort of the runaway harms you're alluding to of superintelligence, I don't know. I mean, I suppose there's forms of emergency blocking that could occur, for example. But again, that's not my expertise.
Talk about it in detail in the next round. And this ends our first round of questioning, and we will start our second round of questioning with MP Ho for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first set of questions would be for Professor Cristal. It's a pleasure to have you here as a fellow Schulich MBA grad. So in late 2025, the Liberal government announced a $1.7 billion initiative to recruit up to 1,000 international researchers. So that's roughly $1.7 million per researcher. At the same time, many experts, including yourself, argued that Canada's weakness is not in basic research, it's in the scaling and commercialization. So I guess in your view, has the government misdiagnosed the problem altogether by pouring more money into producing research, or should they be focused on something else?
Well, as a researcher, I am always in favor of more research. So that is great. But at the same time, it's not only researchers, right? So we need to do more. That's the bottom line. And when you are referring $1.7 million per researcher as 1,000 researchers, at a lifetime of a researcher, unfortunately, that's not a lot of money. Also, I would like to point that out. But it's not only research, as in my submission I indicated, it's more than only research. We need to bring AI to the organizations. 96% of the Canadian economy is based upon small and medium-sized enterprises. Those enterprises do need support because it's our overall competitiveness. And how do we do that is, from my perspective, is the million-dollar question. So it's research, but then more.
So you mentioned jobs too in AI. There are, depending on which report you look at, tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of jobs could be lost in Canada due to artificial intelligence. We see multinational companies cutting, tens of thousands of jobs just because of AI alone. Do you think the government has a plan to deal with this transformation?
I think upskilling is very important. There will be certain tasks that can be done faster by AI systems that will reduce it. But the bottom line is this: in the way that I see AI applications, it's not headcount reduction. It is more about how we can allow individuals working in any kind of an organization to do more meaningful, thoughtful work.
But do you see any sort of plan? Is the government doing enough to do that upskilling? Are you comfortable that the upskilling is going to occur at a pace that would meet the number of jobs that are going to be lost due to AI?
I would like to see more. AI literacy, application of AI in organizations is a real problem. So the more we can train our society, people who are working, the more competitive that we are going to become.
So the government recently created an AI strategy task force that there appears to be limited representation from the energy and electricity sectors. So these are the sectors that will help build our grid and handle all the AI demand that we're going to see in the foreseeable future. Do you see that as an issue? Do you think that that's a potential blind spot in the AI strategy?
Well, the AI strategy should encompass everybody, right? Because it's not only electricity or grid or the infrastructure providers. You have healthcare, you have legal, you have finance. AI will touch upon all sorts of different things within our lives. So the more you can have participation from different walks of life, it will be better. Creating a nationwide coherent strategy means that you need to get input from different parts of the country.
So I just have a little bit more time left. So the government in late 2025 discussed doing this AI sprint. Do you think the government is sprinting fast enough in your view, or in handling AI?
Who is your question directed to? Okay.
I mean, we can get faster, but you also need to be thoughtful because any AI application has resource implications, right? So you want to make sure that whatever the money that you're spending on, because there is legislation, there is strategies that you're going to build, but once you're going to start implementing those, there is also a cost element to that. So understanding what we tell to our students all the time is when you're going to do an AI project, you need to have a clear understanding of your business goals and the ROI attached to it.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting. Time is up for MP Ho. We will now proceed to MP Rana for 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Chair, and thank you all the witnesses for being here with us. And I'm very glad to know that Dr. Crystal, you are my fellow civil engineer as well. Thank you. My question is to you. You are one of the founder program directors of both for the Master Business Analytics and Master of Management in Artificial Intelligence programs at Schulich School of Business. I was hoping you could speak to how Canadian academics are responding to the recent surge in AI and whether they are facing barriers to conducting research and ultimately commercializing their research, and what would help break down these barriers, please?
In terms of research, we don't really foresee that much barriers. Like we have resources. For example, at York University, we got federal funding to create something called Connected Minds. And that was an initiative between York University and Queen's University that brought together AI researchers, engineers, and also social sciences, because there is a need for understanding the impact of AI in the society at large. So we are doing our best. In terms of training, though, we do need to train more people. When I was creating the Master of Management in Artificial Intelligence, the LLMs were in their initial stage. They weren't as prevalent. We launched the program in 2019. Now everybody has a ChatGPT app on their phone. So the game has changed considerably. So what we are trying to do is that while teaching the foundational AI knowledge and then put on top of it, there is also why you're implementing these technologies in any kind of an organization. And that understanding seems to be lacking among our students. So we want to make the connection, so to speak, how we can utilize these technologies to be more competitive in the world stage.
Thank you. And what do you think? How are recent graduates connecting with the future employers? And what's missing within this pipeline? What would keep graduates and researchers in Canada?
That's a very good question. As in my opening statement, the employers, and I'm not talking about hyperscales, I'm talking about regular organizations, regular companies, they are still having trouble understanding what AI can do for them. And as a result, when you have this many organizations, but they don't understand what AI can do with them, it's harder for them to get in touch with the students or hire students as interns, so that they would do projects in their organizations about AI, and then later on will turn into full-time employees in those organizations. So the real barrier that I see is how we educate, train our executives so that they can also understand what AI can do for their organizations. Once they get to that point, they are going to be drawn into the educational institutions, universities, because that's where we actually train people who can do these things. So it is not the impediment is how our decision makers are aware of AI capabilities.
Thank you. And in your research on supply chains, what AI use cases are proving most valuable for Canadian firms, and what steps does the government need to take to scale these successes?
Demand forecasting. You're going to the biggest thing is about, especially in Canada, demand forecasting and logistics, and then that also ties into the last mile logistics and reverse logistics. What AI needs is, like, if you don't take out LLMs, but other AI applications, because AI is not only a large language model, there are other applications of AI. They perform well in closed systems. For those closed systems to work, you need to know what is the outcome. Forecasting is one of the trickiest parts that we would like to see improvements, and that is going to impact your greenhouse emissions, your logistics, your pricing, your inventories. I think that is where the biggest growth can take place.
And my last question is in terms of 15? Okay. In terms of artificial intelligence, where does Canada shine? Do you think?
Oh, I mean, in terms of research, we do shine. I mean, I don't need to tell you, like, we had applied.
Interrupting time is up for MP Wana, and we will now proceed to MP Blanchet-Juncker for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Lewis, should we consider that any system of AI used by the state should be technically reversible and deactivable without an outside actor being involved?
That's a good question. I think that's a matter of policy and something that we ought to consult broadly on to understand. I think from the point of view of national security, we obviously need to have sufficient checks and balances and security valves, if you like, to be able to assert control. This is important. I think at the same time we need to acknowledge that we live in a global information ecosystem. The internet itself is something which we could argue is already essentially out of control in terms of how to control it, but we still live with that. And what do we do in this situation? We put our best efforts in place to be able to protect vulnerable people, to be able to curate and protect the integrity of the information ecosystem. And I would argue we need a similar approach to AI.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Mehmet Murat Kristal. Is it generally more costly for a country to correct technological dependency after it's installed rather than investing from the outset in an institutional structure that is robust?
Question.
Donc,
All right. Well, for example, as regards governance of or supervision of AI, is it more costly for a country to rectify a technological dependency after it's been implemented, or is it easier to invest upstream to make sure that there's an institutional architecture that is robust?
Thank you very much for asking. Actually, I was just reading an article about that. There is a difference between AI first and AI native. AI first would be you're implementing technologies and then you just use whatever comes up first, but you're not changing your organizational structure to be really AI ready. On the other hand, there is this notion of AI native. I would like to see our country to be AI native, so that how we design organizations, how we design our processes are enabling AI implementations. There is a difference between using the tools versus changing the way that you look into the way that you operate organizations. And I would like us to become AI native.
Thank you.
merci, Madame la Présidente, d'avoir une réponse écrite du.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to get a written answer on the costs as well. I'd like to know, is it better to invest upstream or ahead of time or after? That was the question.
If you would like to respond and send it in writing. Thank you. And now we will end this panel with 2 minutes with MP Holman and then 2 minutes with MP McKelvey. So MP Holman, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to all the witnesses for attending the committee today. This question is for Professor Crystal. Canada continues to provide world-class AI researchers, yet many leave for opportunities in other countries where compensation and compute access are significantly higher. How is the Canadian higher education system trying to prevent this talent loss?
It's not an easy question to answer. Yes, you are competing against other institutions, and they do provide more infrastructure, more opportunities, and they pay their researchers more. And that's why when I was talking about I would like to see more investment in research, that's the reality. So you're competing for talent, right? And this talent is not that many. There is a limited amount of talent. And how do you attract this talent is you need to provide them with doctoral students, postdoc students, labs. You need to pay them. So all of these things are not easy to overcome. Our institutional structure is not the same as the other countries, especially in the United States.
Thank you for the answer. My second answer, hopefully I can get it within time. It's to Dr. Lewis, and it's regarding the concern about AI and privacy and civil liberties. I support the development and use of AI in Canada. It's critical for innovation, but I have heard how many constituents in London, Fanshawe, who are concerned about Bill C-8 and its broad surveillance powers. As the government deploys AI systems using sensitive data, what concrete safeguards is the industry utilizing to ensure AI is used responsibly and full protection of privacy and civil liberties? Dr. Lewis?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that there are a number of technical safeguards that we can put in place, and research on this is ongoing. It is an ongoing emergent threat as well. I think I want to be clear about that. This is not a well-defined problem where we can sit and develop solutions and then implement them. This is very much an emerging thing that we have to respond to. We need to be able to support both implementers and researchers to be able to understand how to respond to these in real time as these threats emerge to privacy. I think we ought to also be very careful in the responses to constituents like yours around what they realistically can expect at the moment, what is being done to support them. and maybe where some of those gaps are.
Holman, and we will now end this panel with MP McAlvey for 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's clear that we have work to do to ensure safe, regulated implementation of AI. But Dr. Lewis, I would like to take a moment to maybe have you outline some of the benefits that you think will come from AI and some of the good that it can generate for Canada.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think that we've heard examples in passing of through the discussion of some of the areas where AI is having some of the greatest impacts. I mean, healthcare is an obvious one, where we know that healthcare, personalized medicine, for example, advanced screening of conditions that are much faster and mean that people can end up in treatment cycles or receiving appropriate care quicker. The ability of professionals, medical professionals, to be able to focus on the use of their expertise and be more patient-centered, supported by technology to be able to take away some of the work that they would normally have to do at the same time as that. So I think there are all sorts of benefits in places like healthcare. We obviously know, I mean, we brought up earlier on, one of the panelists brought up the importance of SMEs. I think this is an area that is absolutely ripe for us to take advantage of. SMEs make up the majority of the economy, but they're also not the best placed organizations to be able to rapidly adopt AI and to understand how to do that well. So I think that there is all sorts of opportunities in different areas: supply chain, manufacturing, energy. Even, you know, I did a project with a window cleaning firm, right? And they were achieving increased efficiencies for their business and able to grow in ways that they weren't able to because of the opportunities that AI gave them. What's needed is the ability to be able to support these organizations to do this well, given the size and scale of what they're able to do and their access to expertise. We've talked a lot about the access to the expertise that we have here in Canada. I think we really need to make sure that that expertise is available to the economy at large, and not just a few very large firms that are attractive as employers. So I think, yes, lots of areas. I could keep talking about, you know, education, international students. Yeah. Thank you.
With that, this panel comes to an end. I really want to thank all our witnesses for appearing before the committee and for your important input in this important study. So with that, we will suspend the meeting for a few minutes so that our panelists can leave and we can have the next set of witnesses. So thank you once again, and the meeting is suspended. welcome back. I would like to make a few comments for the benefit of our witnesses and the members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. For those on Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you can select the appropriate channel for interpretation, either Floor, English, or French. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. And with that, I would like to welcome our witnesses for today's panel. I would like to welcome Jim Hinton, the intellectual property lawyer. He's joining in person. And from the Council de l'Innovation du Quebec, we are joined by Anne Nguyen, Chief AI Officer by video conference. And from the Council of Canadian Academics, we are joined by Dr. Tejas Kreutzberg, President and Chief Executive Officer. Welcome to all our witnesses, and thank you for appearing before the committee. All the witnesses will have 5 minutes for their opening remarks, and then we will proceed to the round of questioning. Mr. Hinton, we will start with you. Please go ahead. You will have 5 minutes for your opening remarks.
Yes, thank you, Honourable Chair and members of the Committee on Science and Research. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. The work that you're doing is of tremendous importance to Canada's sovereignty and economic prosperity. I'm the CEO of Own Innovation, where I'm an intellectual property lawyer, a patent agent, and a trademark agent. I'm also a senior fellow at the Centre for International Governance Innovation and a fellow at the BSIA, and I'm an assistant professor at Western University in the faculties of engineering and law. I'm appearing before the committee today as an individual. Today's economy is more than 90% driven by intangible assets, including intellectual property, data, algorithms, and code. And there are sovereignty, in the intangibles economy has economic impacts. You cannot commercialize what you do not own and control. And there are sovereignty impacts. You cannot govern what you don't own and control. Intellectual property allows you to own and control digital technologies. So where does Canada stand in AI ownership and control? AI patenting is a leading indicator of AI ownership. Since 2005, more than 2,734,000 AI patents have been granted globally, with more than 350,000 patents now being granted annually for artificial intelligence. Patenting is not an afterthought for AI, it's a major activity. However, Canada has been doing a very poor job of owning AI. Since the so-called Pan-Canadian AI strategy in 2017, Canada's share of AI patent ownership has dropped from 0.81% to 0.54%. Canada went from being a have-not country to a have-none country. And it's not that we don't invent some great AI technology, it's that we don't own it. And because we don't own it, we can't make money from it. For every 2.5 AI patents Canada invents, it owns only one. In comparison, for every one AI patent that South Korea invents, it owns 3. While important, patenting isn't everything. AI is also protected and commercialized with proprietary algorithms kept as trade secrets, copywritten, code, and data. And data is protected as trade secrets and confidential information. Canada does not have a data asset strategy. Canadian companies can't compete in AI if they don't have access to the same quality and quantity of data, of critical data, as their global peers. Sovereign compute capacity is another precondition to digital sovereignty and economic prosperity. Digital sovereignty is a legal construct, not an emotional one. The legal construct says that to be sovereign, it needs to be a Canadian company with Canadian ownership and control that is out of reach of foreign laws, such as the U.S. Cloud Act. So a U.S. company that holds our data and algorithms on Canadian soil is subject to U.S. law, and that Canadian justice does not apply. Digital sovereignty is not about physical location. Digital sovereignty is not about corporate assurances. Nokia Canada cannot be sovereign AI. CoreWeave, a U.S. company, cannot be sovereign AI. Foreign hyperscalers, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, cannot be sovereign AI. Even Canada's large telcos may not assure digital sovereignty because of their U.S. presence. Digital sovereignty requires exclusive jurisdiction by Canada's legal systems. I make the following recommendations to the committee. Canada needs to have an actual AI strategy, one that puts economic prosperity and national security at its core. We need to stop all funding of talent and research that gets owned by foreign companies. We need to build truly sovereign compute infrastructure that is 100% out of reach of foreign control. We need to spur an IP economy that allows Canada to own and commercialize critical technologies at home and scale globally. Specifically, we need to have Canadian firms be global leaders in AI, IP, and patent ownership. Finally, we need to create and scale Canadian firms that generate, retain, and commercialize data assets. Canada's economic trajectory is currently negative. We are projected to be the worst performing advanced economy for the next decade and the 3 decades after. That negative trajectory is continuing to this day with things like EV, subsidies for EV manufacturing and adoption, and funding of Canadian-based researchers without control on who gets the benefits of that research. In today's economy, it is not productive to create technology for somebody else, or manufacture someone else's technology, or buy someone else's technology. Canada needs to prioritize economically productive activities, owning and commercializing intangible assets, and controlling and monetizing data. Canada's current path is one of a developing nation. If we keep it up, we're going to become the developing nation that we're positioning ourselves to be. Thank you.
And we will now proceed to Madame Nguyen for 5 minutes. Please go ahead. Floor is yours.
Yes, Chair, ladies and gentlemen, committee members, thank you for inviting me to contribute to your deliberations. Quebec's Conseil de l'Innovation is an independent organization supported by the Department of Economy, Innovation and Energy, MEIE. In terms of artificial intelligence, its current mandate is to support and advise the department and certain government authorities responsible for public policy in this field for consultation among actors in the ecosystem for the economic, social, environmental, and cultural development of Quebec. We support MEIE in its efforts to mobilize businesses and organizations to promote responsible adoption of AI across the territory. Transforming scientific excellence into concrete returns requires a fluid continuum between research, experimentation, organizational adoption, and marketing. Our council also carried out an exercise on consultation, mobilizing 15 co-responsibles, 250 experts, 420 contributions from citizens, 1,500 participants, and formulated 37 recommendations. Our council supported with integrity the 5 following recommendations in continuity with the basis of ready for AI and adapted to current realities. 1, set the example of become a client of innovation and that the government finances. We need to test solutions to contribute to make it emerge. A first public mandate would make it possible for Canadian businesses to obtain a first contract when their solutions respond to a public issue. Acting as the first user creates a market, reduces risk, and provides a major ecosystem signal. 2, create demand, invest upstream in recurrent public issues. A number of European countries use demand-based policies to orient innovation toward public priorities. This approach completes the legislative framework and ethics proposed by the Ready for AI policy. Certain issues, aging structures, climate risk, and pressures come up so often that the private market is not sufficient. A federal policy for demand would make it possible to launch a public challenge for financing technologies that don't exist yet and stimulate Canadian innovation, a proven model to move forward. 3, make AI literacy a national skill. It's essential in order to equip the population for technology transfer and should cover lower levels of education, continuing training and requalification, and assisting citizens after retirement. A population is well trained and better prepared to make good decisions and adapt to changes in the labor market and resist disinformation. Literacy is a pillar of collective resiliency. 4, structure an industrialization continuum. We need to support a consistent pathway for fundamental research, applied research, experimentation, organizational adoption, and marketing. Investing in this continuum with computing, data infrastructures, joint laboratories for scientific excellence in concrete solutions, and keep Canada in the front row. 5, make knowledge a collective good, support intelligence and open expertise. We need to rely on open innovation structures and technical collaborative spaces in AI to accelerate applied research, knowledge transfer, and responsible adoption in all sectors. The major digital breakthroughs relied on shared infrastructures. Linux, Python, and other fundamental technologies demonstrate the power of open innovation. In this approach, the Council launched a Brigade AI, a collective approach that brings together experts, practitioners, public agencies, and economic stakeholders around common challenges of responsible adoption. This brigade mutualizes scientific knowledge and technology, proven practices, solutions, and tools, and models that facilitate AI integration, which strengthens collective ability to innovate, de-risk adoption of AI, and accelerate responsible implementation in all sectors. In conclusion, Chair, AI represents a historic turning point. Countries that succeed will be those that transform their innovation into economic value as well as social and democratic value. The 5 levers presented today, the example, create demand, creating the population, structure the continuum, and make knowledge a collective good, and will enable Canada not only to be a scientific leader, but also a worldwide leader in responsible industrialization of AI. Thank you.
And with that, we will now proceed to Dr. Kreuzberg, President and Chief Executive Officer from the Council of Canadian Academics. Please go ahead. You will have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Madam Chair, honorable members of this committee, I thank you for this opportunity to contribute to your deliberations today. Je m'appelle Thijs Kreuzberg, président et directeur général.
My name is Thijs Kreuzberg, and I'm in charge of the Council of Canadian Academies, which is an independent organization. It's a nonprofit created 20 years ago in order to provide rigorous assessments carried on by experts on scientific matters of public interest.
Experts across disciplines and sectors to voluntarily apply their knowledge and judgment to assess complex policy topics important to Canada. Our panels do not advocate, make recommendations, or represent political or sectoral interests. Rather, their job is to reach agreement on what the evidence says, with the goal of informing decisions made by you, our elected representatives, along with those government policymakers, public institutions, and others. Today, I shall speak to some key findings from our recent work relevant to your deliberations, beginning with the valorization of AI discovery. In our most recent report, the panel looked closely at the conditions supporting commercialization of advanced technologies in Canada, and their findings are not encouraging. Indicators continue to point to long-standing challenges that Canada faces when seeking to capture the benefits of homegrown scientific discoveries and technologies. Chief among them are the scaling of startups, access to capital. Firms often rely on foreign, mostly U.S., capital to scale, which can result in the loss of IP and economic benefits. The size of VC deals in Canada is also significantly smaller. Late-stage capital is scarce, and scale-up rates remain low overall. AI also needs talent, and here the panel finds that many top researchers leave Canada after postgraduate training for higher salaries and better opportunities. For Canada, however, the big economic opportunity is less in the scientific discoveries of AI and more in the use of AI throughout the economy. This goes beyond simple diffusion to reimagining industries altogether, reinventing processes, structures, business models. But here again, signs are not promising. Business adoption of AI has been low and growing too slowly, especially in contrast to our peers. Now let me turn now to AI in research. AI has the tremendous potential in scientific research. It can not only eliminate repetitive scientific tasks, but also drive scientific investigation through automated hypothesis generation and experimentation. As it becomes more central, it also brings a number of challenges to Canada's research system. Through its ability to integrate disciplines, AI is blurring the boundaries between those very disciplines and thus challenges how research is typically administered, funded, and evaluated. AI also requires that we think differently about research integrity and about who or what exactly is responsible for research conduct. There remains general legal ambiguity when AI tools contribute to research discovery, error, or safety risk. As for intellectual property, current IP laws struggle with machine-generated discoveries due to unclear inventorship and weak protection of data sets. This brings me to my final point on the protection of scientific discoveries, AI scientific discoveries. Many nations are seeking to harness AI, and with this competition comes security concerns, including foreign interference and IP theft. And the challenge for AI is that it sits at the intersection between two competing objectives: open science goals, like open data sets, open models, and reproducibility, and national security concerns. And while Canada has policies in place listing AI as a sensitive technology, thus requiring administrative precautions, our panel flags the need to go further for Canadian researchers and institutions to embrace a modern research mindset. This is a mindset of having awareness of risks alongside responsible research conduct. It is one where researchers and administrators understand AI's dual-use risks, related geopolitical conditions, and the security responsibilities they share to protect Canada and its people. Madam Chair, members, a final note on the CCA and the use of AI for evidence-based decisions. AI tools are indeed exciting, but introduce many high-stakes risks. When poorly governed or used, AI can amplify bias, mislead, and obscure uncertainty. Also, common AI tools only access published knowledge, missing insights of practitioners, local knowledge, lived experience, and linguistic nuance, all of which can be important for complex policy decisions. In short, AI has the potential to result in decisions that harm Canada's people, community, economy, and reputation. The CCA, for its part, is pleased to be part of a thoughtful community working to provide trusted and unbiased leadership needed to ensure that AI enhances rather than replaces sound judgment in evidence for policy. Thank you, and welcome your questions.
Thank you. And now we will start our first round of questioning, and we will go in with start that with the MPD Ridder for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome back, Mr. Hinton. My questions will be for you. So the federal government spent $240 million on an American firm, CoreWeave, to build a data center here in Canada. In a time of being in a trade war, we're using taxpayer dollars to fund American firms. But in your opinion, are we also putting our national security through our data at risk to the American firms as well and as a whole?
Yeah, and CoreWeave is a U.S. company, and so even though the data center is located just up the street from me in Cambridge, Ontario, it doesn't mean that the U.S. government can't get access to the data, to the algorithms, and there's no reason that a Canadian firm, there's many Canadian companies that could have been chosen, weren't chosen. It wasn't because there wasn't capacity. It wasn't because there weren't Canadian companies with the right technology. All of those preconditions, it's compromising our national security, economic security by design.
Thank you. Microsoft announced a plan to invest $7.5 billion over the next 2 years for digital and AI infrastructure. In their procurement announcement, Microsoft issued a 5-point plan to protect Canada's digital sovereignty. One of them was to keep Canadian data on Canadian soil. Given that Microsoft is an American company and is subject to laws such as the U.S. Cloud Act, can Microsoft truly guarantee the sovereignty over Canadian data and IP, or are there legal limitations that Canadians should be aware of?
Microsoft cannot, and so in a European Parliamentary Committee, a legal officer from one of the cloud companies admitted and acknowledged that the U.S. Cloud Act compels them to share data. And so France, for example, is moving away from Microsoft. Other countries are doing that because of this glaring gap. And so corporate assurances won't cut it. We really have to build the capacity. It's not protectionist to be able to build our own ability to protect our data. It doesn't have to be, even if it's located in Canada, it needs to be controlled and 100% out of the jurisdiction of foreign firms or foreign countries. And the Cloud Act is just one example. There are other policies and other pieces in place, the Patriot Act, other things that compromise our ability to govern these. And so sovereignty is a lot more than this, and Microsoft may just not be part of that piece of the value chain like they are, like they're having to transition out in countries like France.
Would it not be more effective to strengthen our IP sovereignty by incentivizing Canadian companies like eStructure to build domestic data storage and compute infrastructure, rather than relying on American companies like Microsoft, where IP sovereignty cannot be guaranteed? How is this, in your opinion, building Canada strong and sovereign?
It's not. We have great Canadian companies, and we're relying on these U.S. foreign companies because our systems are compromised. We have captured systems by these foreign firms and these foreign countries, and we need to be standing on our own two legs, and we're not. And we continue to invest in systems, national defense systems, health systems that rely on foreign firms, and thus compromising the data, the algorithms, and our economic competitiveness. If we give these billion-dollar contracts, hundreds of millions of dollar contracts to foreign firms, that's lost opportunity, and our Canadian firms are even that much further behind. And so we don't have this industrial capacity because we continue to put Canadian firms far below those global firms.
So effectively, we're using taxpayer dollars to put our data at risk over national security and sovereignty.
That's right.
Yeah. And so if a government does fund sovereign compute, how can they ensure that companies they fund do still have the freedom to operate, in your opinion?
Yeah, so that's a very big challenge, is that you can't just push out Microsoft, Google, Amazon without having freedom to operate. And so you have to work with Canadian firms that have a strong IP position in AI and cloud compute to be able to push them out. But the IP and the patent systems are designed 90%, 88, 90% of the patents issued out of the Canadian Intellectual Property Office go to foreign firms. And so even in Canada, we have limited freedom to operate. And so we need things, patent collectives, resources to be able to capture that IP, generate that IP, and then have freedom to operate.
Another area where we're spending taxpayer dollars is through SHRED, and what we've learned in this committee is Huawei had $100 million back in SHRED credits last year. So can you explain, just because you're headquartered in Canada, it doesn't mean we're funding foreign nationals with our tax structure base right now. Can you explain how that's completely backwards and what we should be doing instead?
Yeah, more than half of SHRED, I believe, goes to foreign firms. And all of that value, all of the IP, all of the economic returns go to those nations and not Canada. So we're funding our competitors and not realizing that value. And Huawei still works with all of Canada's universities. I just did a quick search. Since 2023, there are more than 26 patents that are assigned to Huawei Technologies Canada, as well as Canadian universities, at least 10 Canadian universities. So it hasn't stopped, it continues, and I testified before this committee more than 2 years ago on this very subject, and Canadian universities are still working with Huawei.
So we've banned their technology, but we're funding their research.
Yes.
A little bit of a conflict.
And there was security guidelines put out in 2023 that were purportedly to manage research security. That hasn't changed on the ground. There's been no impact. And it continues to take Canadian research, and a lot of those are AI patents and research, and go out of the country to China, to other jurisdictions, the U.S. as well.
How many times have you spoken directly to the current government and not been listened to on what needs to be done here in Canada? Yeah,
and I was in this very building a couple of years ago with the then Minister of Innovation and presenting this information, and publicly in an article in the Global Mail, he said we need more patents for our AI institutes. That hasn't happened. I did a quick search. The Vector Institute, you know how many patents they have in their name? One. And I said there were 2,734,000 patents granted, and that's just one
Sorry
patent
for
application.
interrupting. Time is up for MP Ritter. And with that, we will now proceed to MP Swatsky for 6 minutes. Welcome to Science and Research Committee, and please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for coming today. Dr. Kreutzberg, I've got some questions around AI alignment and ensuring that the pathway that AI is taking is aligned with our values. I was wondering if maybe you could explain in practical terms, how do you see AI alignments? What do you see any gaps between what direction AI is going, and any gaps between what we consider as our human values?
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I'm actually not well prepared to speak to that question. This is not something we have looked at the CCA or with any of our panels.
Okay, no worries. I was wondering, perhaps you could speak to AI deepfakes being used in scams. Is that something that you've researched?
Not directly, no. We have looked at online harms and the like, but not specifically. No, sorry.
Okay, maybe from a broad sense, what does Canada need to do to develop AI responsibly and be a trusted international partner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. So once again, I think this is not something that we've explicitly taken on, but broadly, it's I think. Yeah, I'll leave it there. These are good questions to be putting to us, but I don't have a ready answer for you on that.
Perhaps we could maybe start with you could just kind of give an overview of what you've been researching on lately.
Certainly. So, we've been looking in depth at the state of our science, technology, innovation ecosystem, including looking at AI, how it's being diffused through the economy. We've looked a bit at AI research here in Canada. We've looked at the security environment of research. So, as I mentioned, the tension between open science and research areas of concern, which includes AI. And we're now looking at geodetic infrastructure and looking at some of the dependencies we have on U.S. infrastructure. Similarly, in the area of meteorological services, we've been looking at our system and some of those dependencies too on U.S.
Sure. Maybe if we could just elaborate on the security that you mentioned, and also sovereignty of the AI infrastructure here in Canada. Is there any gaps that you see right now that we need to address?
On the AI security. Mm-hmm. Well, so in the context of research, I mean, apart from some dependence on U.S. infrastructure, in the context of research, are there gaps? I mean, I think the big issue here is learning within the research community is having to learn how to deal with this tension between open science and research security. It's a big mind shift for the academic community. I mean, we talked about Huawei, and the universities are still reaching out to Huawei, still engaged in partnerships. This takes time, and the research community needs to be learning about this, changing their mindset as to how they think about the research and the impacts that they're having in the broader geopolitical economy. And it's something that they have never had to do in the past, and it does take time, and that's why we're seeing some lags, I think.
Mm-hmm. In terms of infrastructure that we can invest in as a government, what is kind of the most important thing that you see right now? Is it data centers? Is it something else?
Yeah, good question. So, yeah, for in terms of AI sovereignty, is that it? Specifically AI sovereignty. Yeah, I don't know if I can give you a decent answer on that. Again, it's not something we've looked at explicitly, making recommendations on the infrastructure. So I'll pass on that. Thanks.
No worries. Could you speak to anything that we can do to keep IP within Canada? How to attract researchers in the AI sector to Canada?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the government certainly has made a move to bring in talent into Canada. Not clear to me at this stage how much of that is focused on AI. But in terms of keeping patents in Canada, I mean, we do have to improve our innovation ecosystem here. And the panel is very clear that it's the need for Canadian startups, whether it's in AI or other areas, to have to go to the U.S. for capital means that we lose the IP in the process. It transitions out of the country, and we see a net IP outflow out of the country as a result of those financing arrangements. So, fixing the capital environment for our small, medium-sized enterprises, which are doing a lot of research at the moment, is a key step to helping fix the outflow of IP.
Thank you. And maybe just diving a bit further there, what can we do to make things more competitive here? Is it higher salaries for researchers? Is it tax credits?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interdependent pieces to this problem. Without the larger companies in Canada, without retaining those larger companies, we don't have the opportunities. And without the talent, we're not able to build out those companies. And so there's a lot of pieces that need to come together in order to make the shift. So it's not one thing; it's several. And I think it needs a concerted effort across and a commitment in the longer term to pull it off.
And Oh, thank you very much.
And we will now go to MP Blanchet-Juncker for 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Welcome to the witnesses today from Mr. Hinton. Is there a mechanism, a legal mechanism that prevents transfer of strategic AI assets outside the country financed by public funds?
There are announcements about intentions to put pieces in place, but ultimately we see Canada's AI assets fleeing the country at an alarming pace. Our data is out the door very quickly. Our algorithms, our patents, all of that is there. There's no strategic oversight. There's no mechanisms. We, in fact, have mechanisms to accelerate the ability for Canada's AI technologies to leave the country.
Donc, les subventions publiques, l'argent du...
Public subsidies, taxpayers' money that Canadians pay can be used in AI in order to consolidate intellectual property of foreign potential stakeholders. Is that correct?
We fund our research institutions to exfiltrate value around artificial intelligence to be owned by foreign firms. We know Jeff Hinton, no relation, is a great researcher, but it's owned by Google Technologies. And the chair, as he was at the time of Google, said, "Thank you, Canada, for all of the foundational AI research." You know how much we get? We get nothing. Ozempic and all of these other drugs out of University of Toronto, we get nothing. It's a trend that we have. We create a lot of great stuff, and then we incentivize all of that great stuff to be owned and capitalized. And Novo Nordisk, those jurisdictions get the economic rents. We don't.
J'aimerais profiter de votre présence.
I would like to take advantage of you being here today with your expertise as a lawyer. In your opinion, as of now in Canada, is there any independent authority that has legal power that could immediately suspend an AI system that might be dangerous?
It's what the Wild West. It's anarchy. Our digital systems do not have any guardrails. There's a Privacy Act from 25 years ago. There's really older things from before my time that still permeate, but there is nothing to stop our digital systems, AI systems, from doing whatever they do, and that's by design. American firms love the lack of guardrails, and that's a policy choice because it allows them to extract more rents from the Canadian economy, the American economy as well, and other jurisdictions. And so we're implicitly supporting the extractive nature of the data-driven economy by having no guardrails and no mechanisms to take harmful AI and data-driven systems offline if they cause harm.
Donc, M. Hinton, on résume ça, là. On finance
we massively finance the research. The government is pleased to do so in the budget. They say we'll be a world leader in AI. We don't have any independent authority that supervises that, nor any power or robust protections. So, in your opinion, is that a complete strategy or an incomplete strategy? How do you see that as an expert?
Research funding approach to say we need to have researchers that work for foreign firms physically located in Canada, but the value and the IP all goes somewhere else. It was never a strategy. We asked them, the government, the Innovation, Science, Economic Development, for the strategy document. None was ever provided, and people have admitted on the record, or in the Globe and Mail article in January 2023, that no strategy ever existed. It's an announcement. It was performative, and it continues to be. The consultation that happened in the fall was performative. It was not serious. I know people on the committee, and they did an effort to feed back into it, but it was performative, not serious, and we'll have similar outcomes with the next process.
Vous venez de dire des choses très importantes.
So, Mr. Hinton, you've said some very important things. Things are vague. There's no supervision. The government is telling us that it could help the population with AI, but who would it help, according to you?
Yeah.
This vagueness, a lack of supervision.
With AI, as people replace somebody making, let's say, $50,000, $100,000 an hour with an AI system that makes $25,000 or costs $25,000, $50,000. that $25,000, $50,000 goes to those who own AI. Canada does not own AI. And so we replace a Canadian worker with an AI system. And so AI adoption is a folly if we don't own the AI technology. And so we push AI adoption, but because we don't own the technology, then we're replacing it with a digital system where the profits are maximized outside of the country. And that's why we're going to become a developing nation.
On va regarder ce qui se passe ailleurs. Les meilleurs...
So, Mr. Hinton, let's look outside the country. The best international practices, did they recommend clear separation between economic promotion of AI and its regulation? Because the minister can do anything. They attract investors. They do the regulation at the legislative level, and you say that there's already a gap there. What are the best practice according to you?
I'm not defeatist. We can do well, and I look to South Korea as a great example. I look to the Nordic countries as other strong examples. We can make our own sovereign systems, but we have to have Canadian firms at the core that we can control, that we can govern. It's like me telling you what you can do with your backyard pool. Google's not going to have ethical AI or unbiased AI if we tell them. What happened with the digital sales tax? That didn't work. The Online News Act. We can't regulate these digital systems that we don't own or control. And so we have to build Canadian domestic firms that we can use to advance our Canadian values. And then once we have those, there's a huge market globally for it.
Yeah. Mr. Hinton, time is up for MP Blanchet-Jonca. And we will start our second round of questioning, and we will go to MP Mahal for 5 minutes. Please go ahead, MP Mahal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to both the witnesses, all the witnesses, in fact, who came to testify in front of this committee. I'm going to start with Mr. Hinton. AI systems are increasingly trained on massive data sets that often includes copyrighted books, music, images, and news, frequently without consent or compensation from the to the creators. Canada still lacks a clear legal framework on whether that constitutes copyright infringement. So from your perspective as an IP lawyer, how exposed are the creators right now, and why has the Liberal government failed to provide certainty for artists, journalists, right holders, etc.?
Yeah, and so there's no update on what happens, and there were consultations that took place years ago, and really no result from those consultations. And inaction means that Canadian creators and global creators under copyright systems are having their data scraped, taken, and then appropriated, and then value extracted for those large AI companies, predominantly foreign companies. And so it's an economic choice to use Canada's economy to extract value. And that really is because I think we have captured systems here that would prefer to advance U.S. interests, who have those big AI systems over Canadians' interests.
Thank you. There's a growing confusion around who owns AI-generated outputs, whether it's code, images, or written content. That uncertainty make it harder for Canadian startups to commercialize their products or attract investments. Does Canada's current IP regime gives businesses and innovators clarity that they need, or Ottawa is leaving Canadian firms at a disadvantage compared to U.S. and other competitors?
So there is no clarity around that from a copyright perspective in Canada, also from a patentable subject matter in Canada, what is patentable, what is not, what is protectable, what is not. And so Canadian firms are left to the international rules. And so we're taking what the U.S. Patent Office says, what the U.S. says around copyrighted works and AI-generated works. So instead of setting a standard that the globe can adopt, and that advances our economic position, that advances our national security positions, we're basically ceding that to the U.S., to China, and other jurisdictions.
That seems like a gruesome act of failure on part of the government. You heard from Dr. Kurtzberg as well that there is a legal ambiguity when it comes to AI retention. If we talk about lack of having parallel legislation to U.S. Cloud Act. And other parallel or friendly legislations in regards to property rights, etc. So what are your recommendations that what we need to do as government to make sure that we have those parallel legislations so that Canadian data is protected, Canadian integrity is protected, and taxpayer dollars are spent in the right direction?
And so first, we need to have that capacity. So we need to build sovereign capacity, and then we need to switch over to that sovereign capacity. And then from a legislative perspective, build the guardrails that we need to have for our innovation and data-driven economy. All of the harms that we're seeing that come out of AI, we need to have some say and participation and leadership on that, it's across the board, whether it's health, whether it's financial, whether it's online harms and the rest of it. We need to move swiftly with that based on global standards.
Thank you. Earlier you mentioned in your testimony that there has been hundreds and thousands of IP patents that has been issued globally. If you can provide light on how many have we provided as a country, how many have we generated as a country?
Yeah, and so Canada owns, I think, about 12,000 AI patents in that 2.7 plus million patents. So we're an insignificant and decreasingly significant player in that area.
What do you think is the reason behind that contradiction, that when it comes to the researchers and innovators, we have the best talent in the world, but when it comes to patent security and generation, we lag so behind?
And so in the fall budget, we said we're going to put $1.7 billion into attracting foreign researchers into Canada. There are no guardrails to who gets the benefit of that research. So if you don't say upstream to say, look, we need to make sure we capture these economic benefits, then we won't get the economic benefits. So we don't govern, we don't have any pieces in place to make sure that the outputs of Canadian-funded research ends up benefiting Canada.
For interrupting, time is up for MP Mahal. And with that, we will now proceed to MP Rana for 5 minutes. Please go ahead, MP Rana.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all the witnesses. Mr. Hinton, what are a few changes that this government could implement to make it easier for Canadian universities and research centers to scale AI IP in Canada?
Yeah, and so it is this industry and university collaboration that needs to happen. Right now, there's a big deficit of trust with Canadian firms and Canadian universities. The advice that I give to companies that I'm working with that are looking to collaborate with Canadian universities, Canadian companies, don't do it. It's going to lead to problems down the road. Right now, if you're a small startup Canadian company and you work with the university, as soon as you get validation, the university will push you aside and go and look for some U.S. firm to get $1 million, $2 million funding program, and then basically all of the work that you've done as a Canadian firm to advance this technology gets swooped up by this large international firm, and so you're giving your competitive advantage to the university, who then goes and leverages that to get to work with a foreign firm.
And if the federal government enforces strict expectations and regulations on funding its research, do you foresee any difficulties or trade-offs?
Yeah, and so we look to the U.S. and the Bayh-Dole Act, and they have explicit provisions to make sure that the U.S. Is economically benefited from it. We see this in other jurisdictions like Finland that say we need to make sure we have they have economic benefit. And so other jurisdictions put these rules in place, and we should be doing the same. And so we're not going to lose researchers. We're going to lose we're going to increase our competitiveness with other jurisdictions.
Thank you. And how are the current R&D support programs, such as the scientific research and experimental development, tax incentives, and industrial research assistance programs, helping alleviate challenges for Canadian AI firms? What do you adjust?
Yeah, and so there's a SHRED review that was ongoing. I don't know what happened to that, and that was a year or more ago now. And so we need to see what happens. We need to augment SHRED to make sure that Canadian firms benefit. As I said before, more than half of it goes to foreign firms. So we need to have that corrected. And there's a disproportionality. There's great programs like Elevate IP, the Innovation Asset Collective, IP Ontario, for example, publicly funded ones, and then got renewed funding in the fall. But they're subscale. We put $57 billion to battery branch plants, and then $50 million over 5 years. You spent more on scaffolding for this building here than we did on intellectual property.
And are there any other countries besides Canada that do a better job for retaining publicly funded IP that Canada should study and adopt?
Yeah, and so like the Americans do it very well. China does it very well, and we can adopt things from there. But small open economies like South Korea do it extremely well. I've got a Samsung phone. We have a Hyundai hybrid vehicle. There's no reason this small Korean country does so well at innovation, and so we can do the same thing. And we have strategic resources. Our energy resources, our talent is fantastic, and so we need to take that foundation, critical minerals, for example, and then build that in, and then actually capitalize on that.
Thank you. And Dr. Kurtzberg, how attractive is Canada to international researchers, and what steps could we take to attract talented researchers to Canada?
This country is attractive to international researchers, right? There's no question. We have a very good reputation in the area of research. I think in terms of increasing that, it's to look at where some of the challenges are facing Canadian researchers and accessing research funds, right? And so it's the funding systems that we have to support their research areas and making sure we have funding for that.
And in the global context, what does AI leadership realistically mean for Canada?
What does AI leadership mean for Canada? I'm not sure if I can cleanly answer that. Not something that I'm prepared to answer, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
And how we do ensure that Canada remains a leader in AI?
Certainly, we have to fix our innovation ecosystem. The comments that my colleague here has been saying is on the mark. It's tricky. I think Canada is with the global economic order is shifting, and what made sense 10 years ago no longer makes sense today, and we're having to adapt and change in the context of the new geopolitical realities, which we don't have the answers to.
Thank you. Time is up for MP Rana. And with that, we will now proceed to MP Blanchet-Juncker for 2.5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Simplement vous informer que je vais...
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to inform you that I'm going to ask a few questions, but before the end, I'm going to be filing a motion. Ms. Nguyen, the main blockage to adoption of AI by small and medium businesses, is it the absence of structured financing for experimentation rather than technology issue? Thank you for the question. Indeed, it is the adoption issue. It's operational with regard to literacy. We need to bring in a common level or threshold, because if we're not able to identify the high potential buy-in organizations, we'll miss this historic moment that could help us to increase our performance and be more optimal. So we need a common threshold to bring in institutions or independent authorities in terms of competition, to bring in criteria, shared language and tools made available to all businesses regardless of their size. And we also need to make it clear that we have a different economic reality. We are highly unionized, and artificial intelligence nowadays can take charge of a number of the mechanisms and processes end to end. And by working on a silo basis, we need to break them down and be able to bring these tools into our economic reality. So the first stage would really be to make available this common threshold so that people can upgrade their skills, and then we can really move forward. Thank you. Anything else that's essential that you'd like to share today? Yes, we also need to make it clear that there are 3 types of jobs that can be at risk and exposed to AI. Some can be, professions can be improved, some can be transformed, and some are at risk if we're not able to go in the right direction with them. So based on that reality, I think it's important also to observe that the fact that we move forward with the IA brigade in Quebec. Now we have 95 experts in artificial intelligence from all areas from research through to adoption that can translate this into reality. And we need talent. I'm going to break you off there, Ms. Nguyen. I'm sorry, but Chair, the national AI strategy will have structural impacts on our economy, our security, our national security, and our critical infrastructures and our digital sovereignty. In such a strategic field, it's essential for Parliament and the public have full visibility on consultations, stakeholders, and documents that orient this strategy. So transparency is not optional when it involves decisions that will commit Canada for decades. So the motion that I would like to table aims quite simply to enable the committee to exercise its role of monitoring and provide complete accountability. I would not like to read it out as a motion that we also debated on February 2nd last, which reads as follows under Section 108.1, the Standing Committee on Science and Research orders the Department of Industry and the Ministry of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation to table within the 7 days after adopting this motion from September 1 until now all the following documents concerning the development of content for governance and implementation of the national AI strategy, namely the complete list of all stakeholders, individuals, organizations, businesses, institutions, or governments that participated directly or indirectly in the public consultation and targeted consultations or preparatory work, including an indication of all contributions received anonymously, as well as all analyses, notes, or justifications that enabled the accepting of anonymous contributions, all the briefs and written submissions, comments, questionnaires, and documents submitted in their full, complete version as whether requested or not. I will be ready to debate this motion with my colleagues for its adoption.
MP Blanchet-Jonca, now we have a motion on the floor, which has been brought by MP Blanchet-Jonca. Just 1 second. I would like maybe we can let the witnesses go.
It's up to you. I don't want.
We will have to suspend the meeting. Look into because this motion was debated earlier. So is it all right that if we let the witnesses go, so that yes, MPT Reader.
Before we suspend the meeting, can I just put a notice of motion?
The floor,
it's just a notice?
No, we cannot get into anything. Okay. It's we already have a motion on the floor. We have to debate that. So he has asked, I just wanted to get members' permission so that we can let our witnesses go. So is everyone okay? Okay. Thanks a lot to all the witnesses for appearing before the committee and providing your input. And you are okay to leave. The meeting is suspended. floor was with MP Blanchet Jonca. Just to clarify that we were debating this motion on the meeting on
February 2nd.
February 2nd, and the debate was adjourned. And the procedurally, what it needs to be done is if MP Blanchet Jonca wants to bring it back, like ask for the debate to resume, like to start the debate. So, MP Blanchet Jonca.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Alors,
Thank you, Chair. So I would simply like to simplify things and request that we resume the debate that was suspended when I brought forward my motion this February 2nd last.
So MP Blanchet Jonca would like to resume the debate. When the debate was adjourned, we were on a sub-amendment which was moved by MP Baldinelli, that the amendment be amended by replacing the words 60 days with the words 30 days and by deleting the words, and that the information be in compliance with the information that would be given via an access to information and privacy request. And I would also read the amendment which was moved by MP Noor Mohammed, that the motion be amended by replacing the words within 7 days with the words 60 by adding after the words all of the following documents the words from September 1st, 2025 to the present, by replacing the word pan-Canadian with the word national, and by adding after the word in their entirety, whether solicited or unsolicited, the following, and that the information be in compliance with the information that would be given via an access to information and privacy request. The copies of the motion with the amendment and the sub-amendment are being distributed by the clerk to everybody. No, we haven't got that as yet. So we are on the sub-amendment. Thank you. Okay, sorry, just 1 second. Procedurally. Yeah, Mr. Clerk, if you can come. Sorry. So, MP Blanchet Jonca has moved to resume debate on this motion where we had the sub-amendment, amendment, and the main motion. So, now we will have to move on, vote on whether we go ahead with the debate, we resume the debate on this motion. So I will ask the clerk to please take the vote on whether we start the debate, to start the debate.
Yes?
Yes, please.
It's your call, Chair. We're still waiting.
Chair. So, I mean, before we call the votes, I would hope that we'd be allowed to have all our members in place here.
The member has he left or
he just stepped out. My understanding is my one staffer is going to get him. He was going up to the house.
Because MP Blanchet Jonca has moved to resume debate, so we need to vote so that whether we resume the debate or not.
Someone is going to get it.
Yes, someone's going to get him right now. Pardon me?
Give I'll just maximum give a 1 minute. We have to.
Just a vote on to resume debate, right?
Yes.
Well, I think. Do my liberal friends?
I think we should take the vote. If the member has gone out or I don't know where the member is, so.
Okay. So
We'll take the vote. The clerk, please go ahead with the vote. Clerk, please go ahead with the vote.
Yes. Mr. Baldinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Ritter.
Yes.
Mr. Holman.
Yes.
Mr. Mahal.
Yes.
Mr. Sawatsky.
Yes.
Mr. Rana.
Yes, please.
Madame Shi. And you have one. Monsieur Blanchet Jonca.
Monsieur le greffier.
Oh, sorry, Monsieur Villeneuve.
Swasky,
Ouais. Monsieur Villeneuve.
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchet Jonca.
Oui, Monsieur le greffier.
None yeas, no nays. I did it. Yep.
So we resume the debate. We have the sub-amendment on the floor. Any comments for the sub-amendment?
Do we have like printed copies? I tried.
He sent someone, but
Cannot find the,
as yet we have not been able to get them. So please.
You can refer to the minutes of the meeting of February 2nd. You will see all the information.
We have the sub-amendment on the floor. Seeing no hands raised, can we go into the vote for the sub-amendment? So, Mr. Clerk, can you please take the vote on the sub-amendment?
Yes, of course. Mr. Sawicki.
Yes.
Mr. Rana.
Yes.
Monsieur Villeneuve.
Oui.
Ms. Shi.
Yes.
Monsieur Baldinelli.
Yes.
Madame de Ridder.
Yes.
Mr. Mahal.
Yes.
Sorry. Mr. Holman.
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca.
Oui.
9 yeas, no nays.
So the sub-amendment is adopted. So we have the amendment as amended. Any comments? We have on the floor amendment by MP Noor Mohammed as amended by MP Baldinelli. Seeing no hands raised, can we take a vote? Is everyone in agreement of the amendment as amended? Yes. Anyone against? Okay, so the amendment as amended is adopted. So now we have the motion on the floor as amended. Any debate?
Sorry, would you mind reading what we're voting on?
Okay, so I will ask the clerk to please. You don't have the exact wording?
I need 1 second.
Okay, so we will suspend the meeting. The clerk has to just put that together on the motion as amended. The meeting is suspended. we are, the motion as amended the motion as amended has been circulated to all the members. And now we will proceed to the vote. Okay. I will ask the clerk to please take the vote on the motion as amended, which has been circulated by the clerk to all the members. Okay.
Should we not read the motion in the text just to make sure we're all on the same page?
No, I think. Has got the motion, so please start the vote.
Mr. Baldinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Ritter.
Yes.
Mr. Mahal. Yes. Mr. Holman.
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca.
Oui.
Mr. Sawatsky.
No.
Monsieur Guillaume Deschenteriot, pardon.
Non.
Monsieur Rana.
No.
I'm she. 4 nays, 4 yeas.
4 nays?
4 yeas. Motion adopted.
Okay. The motion as amended is adopted. Okay. With that, is it the will of the committee to adjourn the meeting? Yes. Okay, the meeting is adjourned.